Day 504 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. All right, y'all, we're back again another day, another LeetCode problem where we're doing daily LeetCode problems. And today we have question number 3484, design spreadsheet. The difficulty level is medium, but don't worry because you already know we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand as possible. But before we get started, y'all, don't forget to like, hype, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you need any new Apple AirPods, go ahead and check out that link in the description so you can get you some. Now let's see what the question says. A spreadsheet is a grid with 26 columns labeled from A to Z and a given number of rows. Each cell in a spreadsheet can hold an integer value between 0 and 10 to the 5th power. Implement the spreadsheet class. The spreadsheet initializes a spreadsheet with 26 columns labeled A to Z and a specified number of rows. All cells are initially set to 0. The function setCell sets the value of the specified cell. The cell reference is provided in the form AX, meaning A1 or B10, where the letter represents the column from A to Z and the number represents the one index row. The function resetCell resets the specified cell to 0, and the function getValue evaluates a formula of the form x plus equals x plus y, where x and y are either the cell reference or the non-negative integers, and returns the computed sum. Note, if getVal references a cell that has not been explicitly set using setCell, its value is considered 0. All right, y'all, so that may seem a little bit confusing at first, so let's take a look at this example just to make sure we're doing this problem correctly. So when we get into this example, let me copy and paste this over here so y'all can get a better visual representation of what is going on. So that's our input, and this right here will be our output. Boom. So we could just label this output, label this input. Boom. So let's go through it. So we have our input right here. Now, each one of these strings in this array is going to correspond to the same index in this array, right? So let's go through the examples so we can make it make sense. So first, we're calling spreadsheet, or we're just initializing spreadsheet. We're initializing spreadsheet with 3 rows. So this 3 represents the number of rows that we are going to initialize this spreadsheet with. Okay, and then also I'm gonna start an array right here as we go through it. So at the end, this array should look like this array. Boom. So first thing we're doing is we're just initializing the spreadsheet class, right? This is the spreadsheet class. We need to initialize it. Boom. So we're just initializing it with 3 rows. So we could come right here, we could put null because we didn't return anything. We just are initializing the spreadsheet. So boom, we already called these. So we could get rid of this and we could get rid of this. But if you want to know how the full input looks and output looks, it's right here. Boom. So just so we don't get confused, I'm going to delete them as we go so we don't lose track of the corresponding indexes. So boom, we initialized it. We passed in null into our output. Now, the next function we're calling is getValue. So what we're going to do for the getValue is, says right here, we're going to evaluate the formula of the form x plus y, where x and y are either cell references or non-negative integers, and returns the computed sum. So now we're returning something. We are returning the computed sum of this right here, 5 plus 7. Boom. So we call getValue, and this is the value we want to get, 5 plus 7. 5 plus 7 is 12, so we put 12 right here. Boom, that's where this 12 comes from. So we say comma, boom. And we called these so we could get rid of these so we don't get confused. Boom. So now we're calling setCell, right? So we want to set cell A1 to 10. So we're going to give the cell A1 a value of 10. So for that, once again, we're not returning anything, so we could put null right here. And this just so we can remember what A1 is equal to. Now A1 is equal to 10. Boom. So we could get rid of this. We call this, Once again, we don't return anything. That's why we put a null right here, because nothing is being returned. We're just setting cell A1 to 10. So boom, we call this set cell. We could get rid of that. Now we're calling get value. We're calling get value on this A1 plus 6. So just, yeah, remember each one of these strings in this array or function calls corresponds to the same index in this array, right? So if this was index 0, this would be index 0. If this was index 1, this would be index 1. If this was index 2, this would be index 2, and so on and so on. They all correspond with each other. So now we want to get the value of A1 plus 6. So we know A1 is 10 because we just set A1 to 10 right here, right? So right here where we set the cell, we set A1 to 10, right? Boom. So we already set A1 to 10, so we know A1 is 10. So now we're trying to get the value of A1 plus 6. A1 plus 6 is 16. So we're returning it. We're returning the 16, so we could put 16 right here. Boom. Now we could get rid of these because we already called them. Boom. Now we're calling set cell again, and this time we're setting the cell B2 to 15. So once again, we're not returning anything, so we could just put null, but we need to remember that B2 now equals 15. Boom. So we did that, we set the cell to 15. Boom. So we called that function, we could get rid of it. Now we're calling get value A1 plus B2. So A1 is 10, B2 is now 15 because once again we set B2 to 15 with this call right here. We called set cell. Boom, this set cell will go with this B2 is 15. So we know B2 is 15. We know A1 is 10. So 10 plus 15 is going to give us 25. So that's why we could put this 25 right here, right? So now we've gone through all of this. That's where this 25 comes from up here. Boom. So we got that value. So now we can get rid of this. We can get rid of this. Boom. Now we're calling reset cell to A1. So we're going to reset the A1 cell, right? So that says we call reset cell A1. So A1 is going to turn to 0 because it says right here resets the specified cell to 0. The reset cell function resets the specified cell to 0. So we're calling reset cell on A1. So that means we're setting A1 to 0 now. Boom. So now A1 equals 0. We get rid of this because we called it. We get rid of this. Boom. And we need to put the null right here because we didn't return anything. We just reset the cell value back to 0. And now, last but certainly not least, we want to get the get value of A1 plus B2. So that is going to be, now that's going to be 0 plus 15. We could pass in the 15 right here. And that was the last function call. Boom. And now this right here should match this, and it does. And yeah, y'all, that's how that question works. So I hope that makes sense to y'all. And now that we understand the question, let's get into the fun part, the actual solution. The solution is not that difficult at all, so let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing we are going to want to do is we want to create a 2D array that's going to represent the spreadsheet grid. So each inner array is a row of 26 integers, which is columns A to Z. So this is going to be a 2D array. So we're going to come right here. We're going to declare a variable. We could call it sheet, colon. It's gonna be a 2D array, so square bracket, put the int inside. Boom. Then we are going to create a spreadsheet with the given number of rows, and each cell is going to start with the value of 0. So we need to initialize this. We need to initialize this right here by coming right here in this init, and we are going to say sheet equals an array. Open up the parentheses, it's going to be repeating, colon. So since it's a 2D array, it's going to be repeating another array. So repeating, it's going to be repeating arrays. Then we're going to open up the parentheses again. We're going to say repeating colon 0, comma, count 26. So, or count colon 26. Count colon 26. Come outside of these parentheses, say comma, and then we're going to say count colon rows, just like that. Now we need to create a helper function. So we need a helper function which is going to convert a cell label such as B3, A10, B7. We're going to convert that cell into zero-based row and column indices by creating this helper function. So we're going to come right here outside of this function, all the way at the bottom. We're going to create a helper function. We're going to say private func get cell row column, open up the parentheses. We're going to say underscore cell colon string. Then that's going to return. So come outside of the parentheses. It's going to return, open up the parentheses, int, comma, int. Then we're going to come outside of those parentheses. We're going to open up the brackets. And we're going to say let cell equal an array. So we're going to turn cell into an array just like this, because right now cell is a string. So we're going to convert that into an array right here. Then we need so column is going to be the first character, right? So either an A or a B. So for that, we're going to come right here and we are going to say let column, equal is going to be an array. Oh, excuse me, not an array. It's going to be an integer. And we're going to open up the parentheses. We're going to say cell square bracket 0. Come outside of that square bracket, we're going to say dot ASCII value, exclamation point, minus character, open up the parentheses, put in the quotation marks and a capital A like that. Then we're going to come outside of these parentheses, we're going to say dot ASCII value and put the exclamation point at the end of that as well. Then the remaining characters form the rows. So the number base, these are the columns, the character base. The number base are the rows. So the remaining characters from the rows are going to, so we're going to subtract 1 to get zero-based row indexes. So we're going to say, come right here, we're going to say let row equal int, open up the parentheses, string, open up the parentheses, cell, open up the square brackets 1, dot, 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 come outside all of these parentheses and put an exclamation point. Then we're going to come underneath that. We're going to say return, open up the parentheses, row, minus 1, comma, column, just like that. So that's it for our helper function. Now we'll back up here to the main function with this set cell, or one of the main functions which is this set cell function. So first we just gonna get a basic validation by saying guard cell dot first exclamation point dot is letter, else we could just return. Boom. Then we can come right here. Sorry, this should say guard job. I don't know what that says. Boom. Then we're going to come underneath this and we're going to say let, open up the parentheses, row, comma, column, come outside the parentheses. We're going to set that equal to get cell row column, open up the parentheses, pass in cell, and that's going to convert, for example, A1 to the row index and the column index. And then we need to assign the value by coming right here and saying sheet square bracket row square bracket column, we're going to set that equal to value, just like that. Boom. Then we need, for our reset cell function, where we reset a cell back to 0, we could just say call set cell, open up the parentheses, pass in cell, comma 0. And then we need to evaluate a simple formula string and return it as an integer result in our next function. And this formula is expected to start with an equal sign and may contain numbers of cell references joined by a plus sign. So for example, it might say equals A1 plus 5 plus B12. We need to handle all of those cases. So for that, in our get value function, first thing we are going to do is we're going to remove the leading equal sign and split it by the plus sign. So we're going to say let components equal formula dot drop first, because first will be an equal sign. So drop first, put the parentheses, dot components, open up the parentheses, separated by colon, open up the quotation marks and put a plus sign in the quotation marks. Then we are going to declare another variable called res, and we'll set that equal to 0 just to start. Then for each component, we're going to add either a literal number or the value stored in a reference cell. So we're going to say for comp and components, boom, we're going to open up the brackets and we're going to say if let number equals, and open the parentheses, comp, we're going to open up the brackets and we're going to direct, and we're going to say, we're going to say res plus equals number. Then we could come right here and we're going to say else. We're going to open up the brackets. We're going to say let, open up the parentheses, R1 comma C1. We're going to set that equal to get cell row column, open up the parentheses, pass in comp, and we're going to come underneath this and we're going to say res plus equals sheet square bracket R1 square bracket C1. Then all we need to do is come right here and say return res. Now that should be all she wrote, y'all. Let's give it a run before we submit it. Make sure it runs properly. Let's see, it's accepted. So let's go ahead and submit it. Make sure it's still accepted after we submit it. Let's see, and look at that, y'all. 191 milliseconds beats % of users. Not too bad at all, y'all. So with that being said, make sure you get one more look at the code. Read it, learn it, love it. This is the top part. This is the middle part. And this is the bottom part, y'all. And with that being said, I hope y'all learned something today, and I hope to see y'all here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See y'all then.